Are you happy with your life? If not, have you heard of biohacking your brain? If not, stay tuned. Today's guest has some really cool tips on how you can change your life. Hi, and welcome to today's episode. I have an amazing guest for you, Kimberly Jarman. She is a mental performance coach, and who can't use that, right? So welcome to the show, Kimberly. Thank you for being here today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Angela.
Oh, you're so welcome. So you're a mental performance coach. For those who have no idea what that is, can you describe like what
Yeah,
you
I get asked that question a lot. So I come out of the therapy world. My master's is in counseling, and then I coach based on neuroscience mindset. So when I think of mental performance, I think of how do we show up and do the things we want to do in our lives? How do we show up and reach our full potential to fulfill our destiny? And all of it comes down to the brain. And how we perform mentally is how we perform in any arena that we're in. So really tapping into like rewiring the mindset, biohacking the body, optimizing neurotransmitters and hormones so we can show up and perform and achieve the goals we want.
Oh, wow. Okay. So who do you typically work with? Like what
Women.
women? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Usually women that are in their like late 20s, 30s, 40s, right? We're in that phase where we did all the things that we were supposed to do. We're in those careers and we're sitting at that desk going, "Yeah, this is it. Like, I know I'm made for more. Like, I have more potential than this. This cannot be what my life is going to look like."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what's like the first step when they come to you, at that point, what's like the first step for what you do with them?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, we're always our first client. I don't know if you've been told that as a coach. Like, I've always
Yeah.
been told that. For me in my journey, it was like learning, even though I came out of the therapy world, no one had ever told me that my thoughts create my emotions and my emotions drive my actions and my actions create the results in my life. Like I had never heard that. And I didn't understand, that my thoughts come from two different areas of my brain, like my primal brain and my prefrontal cortex, and that most of them are stories, right? So it's really kind of unlearning all these things and like relearning like this is how my brain works. This is how emotions are created. This is how I process emotions. This is what my nervous system is doing. How do I, you know, manage that and then start creating intentional thoughts and beliefs by systematically like, is this a fact or is this a story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ready to transform your life or just tired of feeling stuck? Conquer stress, boost confidence, overcome fears, and more. Unlock your potential with a private mindset coaching session with Angela. Your breakthrough begins here. Visit newmindsetnow.com. So don't wait, book your session now.
So what made you, how long, when you were a therapist, like how long were you a therapist for?
So, because we were talking before the podcast, I married a college football coach, and your licensure doesn't transfer states, and coaches move every 2 years. So I just went straight into higher ed and did academic coaching, academic advising there. So never pursued my licensure because I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Um, so I never practiced as a therapist, but I have had 8 therapists of my own over a stint of how long was it? Like 12, 15 years. And in my story, like it just wasn't effective for me.
Hmm.
I'm going to be honest. Like, I don't mean to attack them, but like here I am, a professional woman. I've been going to my therapy appointments, doing the homework. I have the background in it. And at 35 years old in 2016, I still ended up in the psych hospital for suicide. Like, it just didn't work for me.
Yeah, that's pretty major.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, what are your thoughts? Because I've had these thoughts. I've had a therapist in the past as well, right? I kind of feel like, okay, so it's important for people to seek help for whatever they're going through, right?
Yeah.
But I kind of felt like even when things were better and I would go for my appointment, it was like they would try to take me back again and bring it all up over it. And I'm like, I'm okay. But it's like they kept pushing backwards. You know what I mean? So I kind of felt like,
Yeah.
and my degree is actually psychology. So I just kind of felt like there's something, there has to be something that's more like forward thinking, forward moving, you know, which is why I got into what I got into, and probably you too, right? There has to be
Mhm.
something more about progress and
Yeah.
making moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it was like, I felt like, yeah, we would like rehash things, and I get it, right? Like therapy is more past focused. Let's process these things, let's validate them. But
Yeah.
after a certain point, what I've learned now, especially from the model, was like I was still leaving with the same like crappy thought patterns.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, great process through this, but I still got these same crappy thought patterns that are creating the emotions that I'm feeling. And like, how do I live, like make today better? And like, how do I get what I want in the future? And like, they could not bridge that skill set for me.
Right. Right. So the first step you take with people is typically what?
Yeah, they'll come in, we'll do a consult, and then like, are you talking about when they're a client, first thing in client?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going over like how does your brain actually work and how do your neurotransmitters and your hormones like how does your brain work? How can you identify is this a thought or is this a story? Like this thought, is it factual or is it a story? So they can kind of take some power back over that.
Mhm.
And then how to process emotions. So then we're not afraid of emotions and overwhelming us. And then they also, within the first week, we're mailing out their neurotransmitter, hormone, and cortisol test because it's a saliva and urine test. So they're getting that within the first month and taking that too. So we're coaching every week, you know, like they're coming, like, what's your goal? What are we working on? And what are the actions that we're doing? What are the thoughts and the stories that are coming up around this that are causing us not to show up for it?
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you, just out of curiosity, do you use any of these techniques with like your family and like how do they take to it? Because it's different, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know what I've learned? I'm 43 now, is the humans are just going to be humans and we're all on very different journeys and paths. And if I can, my mom was my biggest training ground, like learning how to just like, I trust her soul knows what she's doing. And like, she's not learning a lot of the lessons that are being presented to her. And like, can I just let this woman be 100% her? And me. So I got out of the business of trying to like change or coach my family or friends unsolicited. Like
Yeah.
that's their journey. And my journey is to take responsibility for my life and to create boundaries that say, I love you and I love me.
I think that's a great point because I think a lot of times people feel like, yes, I'm out here to help people, but if I'm not, you know, if my family is not changing, if I'm not changing my family, like, am I really good at what I do? And it's like, I love what you just said. No, it is what it is, right? They're entitled to do what they want. It's no reflection on you and your effectiveness and your skill set or anything. So
Yeah. Yeah. I don't, are you familiar with Brooke Castillo?
I'm not.
Okay, so she was my first life coach. She owns the life coach school. Brooke would teach us like, you know, life is just 50-50. It's 50% good and it's 50% crappy. And, you know, she would tell me, you know, here I am, Kim, at $10 million a year, at $25 million a year. Life is still 50-50. And I really took that concept and applied it to the humans. Like we're 50-50, right? And like we have free will and we can just act and behave and say and do what we're going to do. Like I'm allowing the humans to do that because they haven't read my manuals for how they should be behaving. And because I want them to read those manuals and they're not causes suffering for me. So I can decide to let those manuals go and just let the humans be humans and take responsibility for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that said, when you had your low point that you
Yeah.
mentioned previously, what brought you out of that? Like what was the pivotal moment for you?
Yeah. So I went in on Monday. I was actually January 3rd, right after Christmas. Um, and I got out on Friday. And when I was leaving on Friday, I had two realizations that changed my life. One, I wasn't as depressed as I thought I was. Two, no one was coming to save me. No human, no God, no one. Like if I wanted a different life, it was all on Kim. And I had to take control of my life and be the one that changed it.
What was the first step you took?
So let's see here. I got out to control. 3 months later, I so epically quit my job. I had a pretty toxic boss. And my only coworker, there was only two of us. Like she was supposed to be suspended, and they let her come back after 2 weeks. And I looked over at him and I was like, look, like it was 9:30 and like 9:20 in the morning. I looked over at him. I was like, dude, just quit. Like you don't want to even be in this field. Like just quit. And like he took me at my word and like started packing his box up. And I was like, oh shit, like I'm gonna be left here by myself with her. And I think that fear was like, I can't. So I packed my box, I typed up our letters of resignation, took them to HR, and we drove off. So that was like me finally taking the steps to like stop playing by the rules, stop being afraid of like breaking the rules and doing what people tell you to do and playing by society's rules. Like you don't want to be here and you don't want to be here any longer than the next 5 minutes. Just go and figure out what, like what your next step is, which then forced me at that point because you can't really go back into higher ed if you quit that way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, you probably get a 2 week notice, right? Not drive off and not tell your boss you're leaving.
Right.
Um, so that forced me to like actually face like what do I really want to do? And I really wanted to open a CrossFit gym.
Oh,
So I was at a CrossFit gym at that time as an athlete. So I just wrote an email and I was like, hey, I got money and I want to partner with you on this. And he was like, I'll just sell it to you. And I was like,
what?
okay, I don't know how to run a business. I know how to coach, but like, okay, let's do it because there's no turning back. I'm already, like rock bottom. Like there's no turning back, and my life is my responsibility now.
Right. Really, I love that story. I love that story. And it sounds like, you know how you just do things and you don't know exactly all the reasons why. And then it kind of leads you to take a step and you don't know exactly why you took that step, but it kind of like unfolds as this is the reason why.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
such, yeah, that's what popped out in my head when you were telling that story. I think that's so cool.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
so,
It's like kind of that, like the fear was less overwhelming than the idea of staying in a life that created so much suffering. So I was more brave to go into the fear than stay stuck in the suffering.
yeah, definitely. Oh, wow. I love that so much. And then what happened?
Let's see. So I get the gym. I'm a really good CrossFit coach, but I came out of higher ed. I didn't have any business skill sets, right? And I didn't have coaching yet. So I didn't know how to manage my mind. I didn't have rejection resilience at that point. And to be an entrepreneur, you really have to like develop that.
Yeah.
So every time somebody quit, it felt like they were breaking up with me. It
Mm,
just was devastating. And I was breaking even, right? And I was having to like develop the skill set of being comfortable with cells. And like I just after 2 years, I was like, it's taken all the fun out of it out for me. Like I can't do this. So I sold the gym. And I think I sold it in 2018, so I would have been 37 then. And then it was another like kind of come to Jesus meeting, like, all right, like I've done my dream job. It wasn't what I thought. I'm not going back into higher ed. So like I have to work. What am I gonna do? And the thought that kept going through my head was I just want to be successful. I just want to be successful. I'm tired of living paycheck to paycheck. I want to create success for myself and like income that I can go live the life I want. And I don't know how to do that. So I was reading Jensen Charles' book, You're a Badass at Making Money. And what I learned in that book, my brain said was like, if you want to be successful, get a coach. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but okay. So I Google it. I find Brooke Castillo's podcast, The Life Coach School, and that's where I heard the model on there. And I was like, this is like the keys to the universe. So I studied underneath her for 2 years, and then I launched my coaching business. Yeah, for sure. They're like, this is my destiny. Like I was destined to become this.
wow. So the fact that you said like I launched my dream thing and it's not what I thought it would be is still like huge to me because you have people who feel like once I do this, then that's it. Like I don't have
Mhm.
to try to do anything else in life. I've already like reached the pinnacle. And with you, you reached it and you were like, wait, actually this is not all I want to do. But
Yeah.
that's okay. I can still
Yeah.
do something else. And it's not like I'm a failure,
No.
right? I love that.
Yeah. I mean, that is like, I'm sure you're a high achiever. I can kind of tell in our very short time together. I'm a high achiever. And I think part of being a high achiever is that like that field goal line, or that goal line constantly moves on us.
All the time.
So it's like I get this dream job and then it's like I thought life would be very different.
Mhm.
I thought I would be happy all the time. I thought, right, like I thought the rainbows and the unicorns would start coming out, and then it's like, no, this
Yeah,
is still the same experience.
yeah, yeah. But you have found your calling now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I love it. You know what's so crazy is when I was in higher ed, students would come in because I didn't know what majors they wanted to major in, and they would ask me, like, I just want to do something I'm really passionate about. I really want to do my dream job. And I was so cynical back then. And I would be like, well, it doesn't exist. Like, like you got to find one that like you can kind of handle the crappiness and like be okay with the good
Mm,
part, right? And now I'm like, oh man, that crow does not taste very good. Because it's like, oh yeah, it does exist, but you have to be willing to take risks and you
yeah.
have to be willing to fail and you have to be willing to pivot.
Mhm.
That is the trade-off to actually have the things like the life and the career that you actually dream of and want. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't just fall in your lap.
Yeah. And the fact that you said willing to fail is super powerful because a lot of people feel like you're not supposed to ever fail.
Yeah.
And that if you do fail, are a failure. And it's like, no, it's just a part of life and growing. And you're always going to be learning more and having new wants. And something that you experience might make you want to experience something else that actually is not even in line with that anymore. So it's like, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
So what,
Like I grew up in a fixed mindset. I mean, I grew up in the South, so it's like there's a lot of poverty here, right? And like fixed mindset is also part of like that culture as well. And it would tell me like if you failed, that meant that you weren't capable of doing it and you weren't meant to have it. So it made you terrified of failing, right? It's like, well, if I fail, then it just means I was never meant to be that person and I don't get to have these things. And then to your point of like doing the things and then expanding your horizons and getting to dream bigger each time, like I had never in my entire life been in rooms with women that were making $500,000, millions of dollars. Like that's not available here, right? And to be able to be in rooms that I've been able to be in now as a coach and like see like this is possible. Like this is possible for even just girls from small town southern states. Like I could be one of those women one day.
yeah, yeah. So what's your favorite thing about what you do now? Like favorite, favorite, favorite.
Favorite thing. I love going on that journey with women because my program's 6 months long, right? And seeing them in the beginning, like having this, like, I want more for my life, but not really believing in themselves to have it, right? And then watching the evolutionary journey and then actually achieving it at the end, and then like, oh my gosh, like, and seeing them advocate for themselves in every room they go into and seeing them being able to manage their mind and not be like up and down emotionally or feel like victims in the world, like they really stand in their power no matter what rooms they're standing in and feel confident in themselves. Like, how can that not be the best feeling to know that I got to be a part of that journey?
Yeah, I love that. So I have to ask you, it doesn't have to be related to what we spoke about today. What's the one piece of advice you could give to a woman watching now?
Yeah. Um, when I was in that dark part of my life, I had a really good friend. So I used to work with veterans too. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, that's a whole story, another story. But I had this veteran friend, and like he looked at me one day and he told me, Kim, he was like, the next 9 years of your life are going to look just like the last 9 years of your life. So you sitting around hoping that it's going to be different, it's not. It's going to look the same unless you change or decide to make a change. Things just, and it was like, it made me sick in my stomach. It was like, I can't do another 9 years of this. Like, and that was like the catalyst for me, like, okay. And that's when I separated from my first husband, is because it's like, yeah, things don't just because I want them and hope that they're going to change, they're not going to. And if you are not willing to take risk and fail and put yourself out there, then yeah, the next 5 years are going to look just like the last 5 years.
Whoa, boom. That was like, yeah, that was really profound and direct and very much so needed.
Yeah.
I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Well, thanks for tuning in today. Thanks for being with us today. Thanks for
Yeah.
tuning in today. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share this with someone you care about. You never know what they might be going through. And as always, keep going and keep growing.